Okay, here we are, week 3, session 2. I'm going to start off with the assignment. I don't think I'm going to go through all of this because we've already been through all of this. And I'm going to move down to where we're talking about online and social media advertising, which is quickly becoming one of the most popular forms of advertising for a variety of reasons. You have the ability to target your marketing. It's much less expensive than traditional forms of print advertising, which I totally agree with. And it can be changed at a moment's notice. YouTube video advertising, and I have some very interesting news. My YouTube video is here tonight. I'm actually going to be able to show you a little bit of the video that I did for John, which is perfect for this particular course because that's what we're working on. So YouTube video advertising is one of the new mediums advertisers are beginning to add to advertising campaigns. Some of the reason for this is the volume of views available in this medium, lower cost than traditional TV advertisement. There is a captive audience. All of this is absolutely true. So if you really want to make your mark in advertising and you want to do it in a motion picture kind of venue, I would say YouTube is a great way to start doing this. Now, again, as I say, I'm very happy to be able to show you my YouTube tonight. We'll take a look at it later on. It's a very long video, so we're certainly not going to go through the whole thing, but I will show you a bit of it just to give you an idea of what I came up with, and you can pretty much see from what is produced what a high-quality piece it is. So let me get to the prompt. In this week's assignment, you'll be creating a storyboard and a script. Now, I didn't originally create a storyboard for my YouTube video because John and I had built the PowerPoint presentation that his YouTube video is essentially based on. So both of us had a very good idea of where we were going to go with this. The only thing that John didn't realize was that at the beginning of it, I was going to ask him to do an intro where he actually sits and welcomes the viewers to see his video. And at the end of the video, we're going to bring him back on again in the same way to say goodbye to everybody and thank them for watching. So that's really the extent of it. However, for the benefit of this class and to give me the ability to show you a couple of things, I went today and I built a storyboard. As far as the script is concerned, there was no formal script. The script was John's presentation, which is basically built presentation, which he's delivered probably around 15 times. So he's pretty clear on what he's going to do and what he's going to say through the course of his presentation that we recorded. The only thing that he had to come up with was a maybe, 30-second dialogue at the beginning and a 30-second dialogue at the end. And John is extremely a very nice person and somebody who's a very enjoyable person to be around. Great personality, had no trouble coming up with an appropriate intro and salutation. So, that's what I have here for you. I'm going to show you this. I do not have a script. As far as the script is concerned, you can see sort of what I did in my storyboard as far as setting up the tone of what's going to be happening. And what you would do is maybe, let's see what it says here. Method, all right, see. This is the industry standard, how to show the client what you have in mind for a commercial. This method not only works for YouTube, but many other mediums that utilize video shooting and dialogue to sell a product or service. Write a brief description of what the commercial's concept is and what it is selling, a minimum of 250 words. So basically, an explanation of what you're doing. And to be totally honest with you, in one of my, I don't have it here to show you right now, but in one of my research, master's degree research papers, I actually did do this. I gave the concept. I put together the concept. So I could actually show you that, but take my word for it. Trust me, I did do it. Following the format shown below, start with a minimum of 6 scenes, which I don't know whether I got 6 or not. I think I might have 6, which mine is made up of 6 scenes basically anyway, something like that. 6 scenes to portray your concept for the commercial. If you wish, you may use different type of script storyboard, but it must include the same information below. The script should be finished copy with the actor's voice talent will speak. The thumbnail sketches of the scene's content is to show content in the scene. Use arrows to show movement if necessary. It's a 30-second commercial, which mine is actually something like a 48, 50-minute production. Not really a commercial, it's basically an entire presentation, which is much greater in scope. But anyway, you're doing a 30-second commercial. Rehearse your ideas and time it to see if it will keep your audience entertained, but also sell the product or service. So what you're going to do in this particular case is you're going to submit a multi-page PDF of a brief description, a storyboard, and a script. Of course, you'll name it the way you name it below. The format is to give your guidance what you need to be included. Feel free to improve on the presentation aspect of this form. Okay, so here is the form. All right, this is what they give you to use. So let me, at this point, since we're here, let me go over to the storyboard and bring the storyboard out. So this is my storyboard. This is what I did. And I used a tool on this that I don't ever really use. I don't know whether you've used this or not, but I really never get to use this very much. So I had a little bit of fun working with this today because it was something that I don't actually use. And that is, the tool I'm talking about is right here. It's called the rectangular grid tool. So what I'm going to do is, by the way, what I've done, just so that you know, I'm going to get rid of this. Let me get rid of this. Stop video. There, okay. What I've done, just so that you understand, is I put the original in here, and then I built mine, and mine was in black, and what I did was I made it partially transparent so you could see me build over top of it. Okay, so that's why this thing appears gray like this. It was my intention to be able to use something, build something on top of it that we can see. So what you want to do with this is, first of all, you have to make some determination of how big this is going to be. Mine has three rows and 2 columns. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click, and it's going to come up. I just clicked. And then, of course, what I want to do is I want to go with horizontal dividers for the top one. I need 2. And vertical dividers for the top one, I need 1. Okay? And so 2 and 1. Hit OK. And actually delete that because it's not what I wanted. I wanted to actually drag my own. So I'm going to drag my own out. It made one automatically. But if you take a look at this, all right, now what I want to do is I want to make sure I get some color into this. So I'm going to make it a black outline with no fill so you can see where the type goes. This is what I end up getting. I'm going to deselect it so that you can see it. This is what I get, which is beautiful. Now, when I started filling in these segments, these little, areas, I noticed that I had one very long line right down here, and I had these which are all very small. So what that means essentially is I would probably want to move this over a little bit. So it turns out that it's relatively easy to move. All you're going to do is grab the direct selection tool, and you're going to click on that line, and then use the right arrow to just arrow it over to where you want, which would be like right about there, in my case. And there, you have it. I mean, it's not bad at all. So let's do one more. Let's do the bottom one. So I'm going to double click on this, and this time I need 6. All right, so I'm going to put 6 in there, 6 in there, and I think I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's put 5 in there. Put 5 in there. I'm actually putting the wrong numbers in there, and hit OK. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to drag out my guide. Okay? And it turns out that I have too many. So, first thing that I'm going to do is get my direct selection tool again, and I'm going to come over here, click on that, and then I'm going to move that one over about where I think I want it. I'm just going to show you how to deal with this. All right, so I'm really moving it into position right there. Then the next one, now again, you might not do it exactly the same way as this. Mine is already built, and I'm using mine as a guide. I'm just trying to show you how you go about doing it. With the direct selection tool, I'm going to move this over until it's in the position that I want, which was about here. Okay, there we go. And then this one here, I'm going to click on it. I'm clicking on the path. I'm not clicking on the anchor point, just the path. And then I'm going to move it over until it is in its proper position. Almost there, right there. And I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to move this one over to its position, which is over here. Oh, I could probably hold the shift key down and get them to go quicker. There, and I'll bring it back a little bit. And I'm left with one too many. So what I do with the one too many, I simply click on it again with the direct selection tool, and I hit the delete key. And it deletes it. So now I end up with the number of columns that I want. So as far as the rows are concerned, you do exactly the same thing. You simply click on this line, and you shift up arrow it into position like that. I went too high. Right there is good. Now there's the second one. I click on it, and I bring that up into position. These are ultimately flexible. I mean, you can move these things around as much as you want. And I'm going to bring this one up into position. And then I'll take this one, which is a little bit on the lower side. So I'm going to bring this up here. There, let's bring it down a little bit. Okay. And then this one here. Now this one I seem to hit the numbers just right on. Yes, I did. I hit the numbers just right on this. Oh, come on. There we go. Whoop, too far. There. Okay. Now, as you can see, I have my rectangular grids set up exactly the way I want them to be set up. But let's do something. Let's pretend, for instance, that I didn't quite get them right, and I missed one. Let's say I came up short, and I'm short one piece. What I would do is I'd simply go over to the pen tool, and I'd come over to the frame, and I would click right there, okay? And then I'd come over, hold the shift key down, and I'd come over and I'd click there, and get my regular selection tool, and that's how you add a line to it. So as far as building your storyboard, that's basically how I did this. It's very simple. It's not that difficult to do. And then, of course, I just set the type. And what I did was I set the longest one, which was this one, and then I just duplicated them and put them in position and changed them all to read what I have there. Let me go back to here, and let me hide that layer. And let me unlock this layer, and let me select it. And now let me go back to my transparency, and let me bring it back up to, oh my goodness, what happened here? I'm not getting my transparency back. That's a pain in the butt. Let's see. Yeah, let me select it all. Let's see if I can do it this way. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to drag that all the way up to 100. There you go. And I brought it back. A couple of things I just wanted to show you. What I did was, for mine, I set up scene, scene type, scene description, notes, and scene visual. Now, because I didn't really have the time to do rendering for these things, I had the video, I'm sorry, not the video, I had the PowerPoint, which I'm going to show you as well tonight. I had the PowerPoint. So what I did was I went into this section, each one of these, there's the opening sequence. The opening sequence has John. So I took this picture, and this is exactly what John looks like in the video. So I actually grabbed that and I put that in there instead of putting a graphic in. In your case, you wouldn't necessarily do that. You would put a sketch in there, okay? And then this is one of, in the area of implant conundrums. This is one of the pieces that's there, one of the slides that's in that section. I didn't bother with the second section because they're all basically just this, and they don't mean very much out of context like this. And I I grabbed this one, which was part of parts and accessories, and then there's a research and development. I didn't put that in, and in the end, we have John again, and he's in exactly the same position, saying goodbye to everybody. So there's my visuals. There's my storyboard. And I labeled mine Scene 1, Opening Sequence. In the opening scene, John Carino is in his operatory, is introduced, and he welcomes the viewers to the presentation. John, live sequence, number 1, opener. John speaking from his operatory in ADOMP. Then is Section 2, right? Section A, Scene 2. Implant conundrums, screw retained versus cement retained. It's a lecture outline A, sequence in PowerPoint. That's what it is, basically. It's the sequence which is on implant conundrums. Then 3 is Section B, what the literature says. This is about literature that's available and about what it's talking about with these implants. Lecture B, lecture outline B, sequence in PowerPoint. Again, this is a sequence in PowerPoint, which is that sequence right there. And I can show you that slide in a minute and how that works, where I got this from, actually. Then there's 5, Section D, research and development, lecture outline D, sequence in PowerPoint. Closing sequence. In the closing scene, John Carino, in his operatory, he thanks his viewers and provides additional contact information to the viewer. John, live sequence. Number 2, closer. So two live sequences, and the rest of it all comes from the PowerPoint presentation, which is delivered by John, okay? So that is my storyboard that I created for you so that you could get a sense of what you might do with yours. Again, mine is not an advertisement as much as it's an actual presentation. It's a live presentation. I will show it to you shortly. But again, I just wanted to give you an idea how I went about building my storyboard and how you could do it by using this tool right here. It's nested. The tool is nested in the line segment tool. It's a rectangular grid tool. Like I say, I don't get to use it very often. I mean, it's something that I just haven't got much use for. But in this particular case, it's perfect for doing something like this. And I just wanted you to see it, okay? So here's what I want to do first. Before I go in, I show you the Smile Lock presentation. Let me go back to this for a minute. So we've talked about the assignment. All right, now let's go back to assignments and let's go to the assessment because I also want to talk briefly about the assessment. All right, so let's go to week 3 assessment. All right, social impact and ethical responsibilities. All right, so we have research and define 5 social impacts of advertising. Identify and describe 5 ethical responsibilities of advertisers. Be careful to read each question. Answer each of the 2 short essay questions with a minimum of 100-word responses. Copy and paste the questions into a Word doc. Do your research and write your answers in the Word doc. When you have finished, copy and paste your answers back into the quiz, then submit. You can only take this quiz once, so don't submit until you are absolutely finished. Please proceed to the remaining items for week 3 or proceed to week 4 when you are ready. So basically, there is a quiz here. I can't show you the quiz, but I can tell you right now that the quiz will be about social impacts in advertising, ethical responsibilities. Now, what I want to say to you is before tonight's over, I have 2 pages for you that we're going to go over. Positive social effects of advertising and social responsibilities in advertising. Just so that you understand, in announcements, go to announcements, there's a new announcement for you, links for week 3 assessment. And here are the links I use for a live session on assessment 3. This information should easily give you what you need to answer the questions and also provide reference and citation. Good luck. There it is. And what that is, basically, it's this. Week 3 assessment. Social impact of advertising, ethical responsibilities of advertising. So that's what I've prepared for you. I believe you're going to find that you'll have no trouble getting what you need out of the 2 articles that I've given you there. I think you'll find more than enough information that you could answer the questions efficiently. Before you go in there, of course, and take a look at all this, what I would do is I'd actually get the questions and I'd copy the questions. So when you go into these 2 sites, you start looking around to see what answer they, or what copy they give, what information they give that best suits the answer, okay? So that's that. And let's see. So I have a YouTube video here I want to show you, and I have a SmileLock website. So this is John's PowerPoint show. This is the PowerPoint show that I did for John. My work essentially is the design of these PowerPoint presentations. You know, I designed his background, his slide look, and I designed the way the copy is used on his presentation. This is the outline of the lecture. So if you take a look at this, A is implant conundrums, and those conundrums are about screw-retained and cement-retained implants. That's A. And then B, what does the literature say? You can see where I got my information from my storyboard. Here's my information from my storyboard. Okay, implant conundrums, there it is, implant conundrums. I'll move this over so you can see what I'm talking about. There's my implant conundrums, that's section 2. That's right, that's the first thing after the opening section. And then, of course, what does the literature say? What does the literature say? SmileLock technology, and all of this goes into SmileLock technology. And then D, research and development, and D, research and development. So there you go. That's where I got that information from. And again, as I say, this isn't an advertisement. This is a full-blown presentation. I just want to show you this. This has 166 slides in it. So this presentation, I had to build 166 slides just for this presentation for John. And then our video is John literally recording and giving that entire presentation. So both of these things, if we were to go through all of them, would take me a tremendous amount of time, which I don't want to put you through. I'm not going to make you look at the whole thing. But I thought what I would do is I would go through a little of each so that you could see how this thing was designed and the kind of work that I put into it. This was what I used. Obviously, this is a real project, but it was also the project that I requested my instructor, my master's degree instructor, to allow me to use for my final project and my thesis paper, which he agreed to let me do. So again, I have been working on that, and I've been working on this video. And the video that I got is not the absolute final video. It's a video that I got late this afternoon around 4 o'clock, and it's pretty much done. It has a couple of things in it that I didn't like too much. There was a couple of pauses that were too long that need to be shortened a little bit. And there were a couple of areas where there were overdubs done, and the overdubs didn't match up 100%. So I told him to see what he could do about that. And then there were 2 areas where we had inserted video, which was something that John and the production guy decided to do, which actually came out wonderful. I mean, it's absolutely spectacular. The problem is that there's a little flash of at the end of one, there's a little flash of a slide that shouldn't be there, which Lewis, the production person, is going to be able to fix, that I caught. And there was also the second video was it terminated. It ended just a little bit short. It needed to be a little bit longer so that it would go from one slide to the end of the video to a slide a little bit better. Other than that, it was really a spectacular show. It runs, I think, 40-some minutes. So anyway, I'm just going to show you a little bit of this because, again, I went through the whole process before I before I actually did my video for my final, I also had to redesign John's presentation. We started out with a presentation that was nowhere near as beautiful as the one that we got. What I probably should do is I should probably bring this to a slideshow, and I should slideshow from current slide. I think if I do this, you might get a better idea of what this does. Is it going to work? I guess not. Nope. Oh, here we go. There it is. Okay. All right. So, you know, this has transitions, and John basically walks you through this whole thing. Some of these don't do very much. They're just basically slides that John uses. Like, for instance, these slides basically are there to talk about where his business resides in New Providence, New Jersey, and there's New Providence in relation to New York. And then he talks about some of the features of New Providence that are nice. And then that's his office right there. This is where we do our work. And this is John. John is the gentleman in the white coat. This is his partner. And there are people who basically work for him at his place of business. And then, you know, we start talking about the different implant conundrums, okay? And a lot of these are just basically slides where he talks through the process. What's the matter now? This thing's not moving. It's not advancing. What happened? Oh, there we go. This is the guy who is the father of modern dental osseointegration. This is the very first example of one. And here is the, I believe it's this gentleman here who's the person who had the first implant. He had it for 40 years. And then this shows the implants, that the way they had them. John explains this whole thing. I can't do that. But what's happening is you're seeing the slides that we created. These are all the slides that we created. And we have different effects going on. You know, we're building slides here. This comes up, and then that's the slide that you just saw. And this is the next slide that is in the series, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, screw retained advantages. Known risk talks about the advantages, more information about it. This is X-ray showing the different types of implants. And what's interesting to note about this is, oh boy. Hello? You're good? I'm sorry for the pause. I had a phone call from John about his presentation, so I had to pause for a second in order to go in there and just talk to him. I didn't want to have it all on the video. So anyway, this is one of the things that you should know about is I created this slide deck initially for John, and I didn't go very decorative with it. I was just very wholesome and very solid and very plain. And he went in for this position as a presenter, which he got, by the way. They told him that they wanted more excitement. So if you notice what I've done here, this normally would have been just a regular old black background. And what I did was behind the, these are a couple of x-rays. And they would just be x-rays against an overall black background field. That's really all it would be. What I did was I put sort of like this blue hazy smoky thing behind them. And then I used the reflection to reflect them almost like it were sitting on a pane of glass. I end up with something which is far more beautiful than I get when I just have a black background. So this whole presentation was redesigned for that purpose. Let's see if I can get on to the next slide here. Yeah, see, here's another one. You can see, you know, down here is a reflection. It looks so nice with the reflection and this kind of thing. And when you see it in the video, when I show you the video, you're going to see how nice that is as well. But this is a major presentation that he gives. He's given 11 of them already, and we modify them periodically. And yeah, I'm trying to get one with an image. This isn't the best of images in this particular case, but that one isn't either, really. I probably should go down a little bit. Let me go down a little bit. I'm going to pop it ahead because there's some stuff later on that's kind of interesting. Let's see. That's kind of cool. These are all cases that he runs you through. And there's, you know, I'm just really running through this because I'd like to see if I could. There's one where we're showing. Let's see, you know what? Let me escape. Oh, this. Well, that was right there. I was right there. Let me go back to that one, and let me go to slideshow from current slide. There we go. Now this thing is actually an embedded video, and the video plays. And when you see this, if you see this in the actual recorded video, isn't that great? Isn't that lovely? It makes your skin crawl. But anyway, this is what this is. This is his presentation, and what we did with this is we ultimately. Let me see if I can escape here. Escape. Let me go down to a couple. I think there's a few further down that are interesting. What they do, they're kind of interesting. Oh, this is something I think you might find cool. This is. You get to that one. Let's go to from current slide. This is magic metal. And what this metal can be bent into any shape. And then, see, he's dumping it in warm water, lukewarm water, and it automatically bends back into the original shape. Now watch this. I'll see if I can get to the next slide. Watch this memory metal. Watch what this does. This is cool. This is absolutely amazing. He's going to bend this thing all up. And he's going to put it in the water. And it's going to go back to its original shape. It's almost hysterical. Watch this. Look at that. Isn't that insane? Look at it. Goes right back to its original shape. Isn't that cool? So, I mean, in a way, I'll go escape here. In a way, I had a tremendous amount of fun doing this. You know, some of it is kind of ghastly looking. You know, he works with people that have cancers and part of their face is basically removed. And one lady who was telling me the story of, I haven't seen her case yet. He hasn't brought her case out yet, but she was hit by her son with a baseball bat accidentally. She was at a baseball practice and the son accidentally hit her in the mouth and literally broke the entire front of her mouth out. And I don't mean just knocked the teeth out. He basically destroyed all the bone in the upper and lower portion of her mouth area. And this poor woman, I mean, what is she going to do? She literally has to come to someone like John, who's going to try to restore or regrow that bone for her. And this is a process where she's going to be literally walking around like that for, I don't know whether it's 1 or 2 years, a couple of years it's going to take for him to try to regenerate that bone somehow. And I just can't imagine. With this other guy, like I told you, he has a cancer that literally is eating away his face, and it's probably going to kill him. I mean, that's probably going to end up killing him. But the bottom line is this guy comes to John, and John is trying to rebuild what he can on the man's face so he has some quality of life, you know? So, I mean, I give the man a tremendous amount of credit because of the kind of work that he does. This isn't a regular, John is not your regular run-of-the-mill dentist. This is somebody who's an extremely good dental surgeon. And so anyway, this is the slideshow, and it just goes on, and it's quite interesting. So what I'm going to do, I guess, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go to YouTube, and what I'll do is I'll play. See, this is 40 minutes. I don't think I'll let it go for 40 minutes, but I will let it go a little bit. Now, keep in mind that this isn't the final version. I just got a phone call from John. He called me earlier and told me to go to YouTube and take a look at this. So I had to watch the entire video. And what I was looking for were any mistakes that the production person, Lewis, might have made or missed. And what I found essentially was there were a couple of spots where the pause was a little bit too long. There were a little bit too much of a space between a statement to another. It was a little, what they call a pregnant pause. It was a little bit longer than it should be. Then there were a couple of spots where they overdubbed. He did quite a bit of overdubbing. What happened with the overdubbing is it doesn't always sound exactly the same as what is normally recorded. Okay, it usually ends up being the same, but it can start out a little bit strange. You're going to notice this when I play this a little bit. Then there were 2 videos that he added, which I had no idea he was going to do this. This was an afterthought that John had, which was brilliant. It's a wonderful afterthought because it really adds tremendously to the video. It's beautiful. There were 2 videos that he shot, and Lewis shot them, and he included those 2 videos into this. So we not only have videos that were originally there, but there were 2 absolutely new videos, which are full screen videos. But one of the problems with the first video was there was a little hiccup at the end of it where you could see a frame or a slide that you weren't supposed to see. And it was just for an instant, but it was enough to catch your eye, and it grabbed your consciousness. So you don't want things like that. So I told them where it was. I made note of the timing, where it was, and they corrected that. And then there was another one where they had another video very much like it, and it ended a little too abruptly. He should have let it go a little, maybe few portions of a second longer, so that it seemed to transition better. Those are the things that I caught. But I will tell you something. For me, for John, for Lewis, working together, this is our very first video. And I will tell you, when I originally said to my instructor I was going to do this, originally what I had in mind was for me to produce this thing in Camtasia, which I have to be completely honest with you, would have never been anywhere near as nice as what we got here. And he even said to me at the time, do you have somebody who's going to do the recording for you? And at the time I had to say no. So what happened is, well within the context of this project, what happened is Lewis came on the scene, and Lewis is actually a cousin to John's, and it turned out that Lewis was going to be here for just the right amount of time and at just the right time for us to use him. So we used Lewis. And so Lewis actually created this using Premiere, not using Camtasia. And he also did an external recording as well as the computer recording, so we could substitute the dirty computer recording with an external recording, making the sound beautiful. And he also had a video that he could capture John, so he had an intro that he was able to capture, which I wanted to do. And I was going to find a way to do it myself, but I probably would have ended up having it, you know, like this, the window that I have up here. This is probably what I would have done. I would have done something like this. You see what I'm saying? That's what I would end up having to do, because I don't have the camera that's required to do something like that. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm going to play some of this for you, because you should see what I did with the video. And again, just so that you understand, this was a team effort. John, who is the talent, he actually did the recording, and I produced the design for the PowerPoint presentation that we're recording, and I worked as a technical assistant or creative assistant with Lewis, who was basically doing all the filming and the post-production stuff. And as I say, you know, it came to me, and my job at that point would be to look it over to make sure that everything was the way it should be. And as I told you, I spotted some stuff. So anyway, I'm going along with this. Let me just play some of this and see if you like it.
Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. John Carino. I'm a prosthodontist. Today I'd like to share with you a new paradigm shift in implant prosthetics. Before this, we only had two options: screw-retained crowns and cementable crowns. Now we have a new way of restoring implants that gives us the best of both worlds. I hope you enjoy my lecture. Welcome to A Paradigm Shift in Implant Prosthetics by Roto Medical. It is the art and science of the smile. It's an original lecture series. This is recorded as a review for my lecture attendees. on July 8th, 2017. Today we're going to discuss a number of implant topics. Screw retained versus cement retained. What does the literature say? Smile lock technology. We're going to look at smile lock for the single unit, parts and accessories, smile lock removers, bridge work and full arch restorations, and what's currently going on in research and development. A little about me. I am a prosthodontist. Graduated from Emory University School of Dentistry back when they had a dental school. From there, I continued my education with my dental implantology certification at Harvard University. I have an office in New Providence, New Jersey, a sleepy little town 30 miles west of New York City, a bedroom community for the financial district. Like most towns in the Northeast, there's a memorial tribute for those lost during 9/11. Here's my office, right by the train station. This is my crew. I have a partner. We share 2 dental assistants. We share 2 hygienists. We have an office manager and a lab tech. Let's talk about the implant conundrums. When I started back in the mid-'80s, there was screw retained versus cement implant restorations. That's all we had. Brandemark had the external hex. He restored his cases with a high water line. Straumann and the ITI, simultaneously in Europe, developed the tissue-level implant with the cementable abutment. I think we could all agree that the father of modern dental osseointegration is Per-Inge Brandemark, an orthopedic surgeon out of Sweden. He was the one that developed the first dental implant system, and this is one of his original case studies, done on a rabbit femur. The man sitting to the left of a young Per-Inge Brandemark is just as famous. His name is Gustav Larsson, a cab driver from Stockholm. This is Per-Inge Brandemark's first implant patient. A high water line, maxillary mandibular arches. Nothing touched the tissue. Basically, it was a bar with polymethyl methacrylate and denture teeth. Gustav Larsson wore this for a little over 40 years. So let's talk about some of the screw retained advantages. One, they're easier to retrieve. Hygiene and maintenance is easy because we can take them off. If we have to change the emergence profile, we can. We can close a contact if one becomes open. If there's an adjacent tooth loss, we can add it to the prosthesis. And we can change the prosthetic design if it's retrievable. And it's really the only option when there's limited inner arch space. The other main advantage of screw retained prosthetics is its known retention, and there's no risk of leaving any residual cement. Let's see what's corroborated with the literature. It was Way and Hidehiro in the International Journal of Prosthodontics back in 2008, 2010, where they studied 146 restorations that were placed, and they evaluated them from anywhere.
Stop there for a second. You'll probably notice that at the beginning of this particular slide, there was a shift in the actual volume or the level of John speaking when he entered in. That's one of the redubs. That was one of the things that I noticed. I just thought I'd point that out to you because, again, I was sent this to evaluate, to take a look at, and review.
Between a 1 to 123 month time period, 43% of those restorations developed an open interproximal contact, most commonly on the mesial. The greatest incidence of development was with patients with opposing dentition of natural teeth or implants, and teeth adjacent to the implant restorations were non-vital and non-splinted. In my practice, we see this frequently. As you can see here, the screw retained crown on the left-hand side with an open mesial contact. Cemented crown on the right-hand side, open mesial contact. And again, Straumann implants, mesial open contact on the second bicuspid. Screw retain has disadvantages though. One being the cost. Extra screws, set screws, the aesthetics aren't as good, the composite plugs darken with age, and implant position is very, very critical. Angled abutments, impression parts, lab analogs, lab screws, metal bills, the set screws, the abutment screws, mill cores, prosthetic screws, and lab bills really raise the cost of the final prosthetics. You can see here 3 of my cases. Mandibular arch on the upper left-hand side, prosthetically perfect. Everything was great, except the patient says to me, why do my teeth have measles? The middle slide with the set screws covered with silicone. Doc, I still feel those little areas when the silicone pops out. And the one on the right, my little grandmother patient who came in and said, my grandson says I have transformer teeth. All these cases were prosthetically working very well. Unfortunately, aesthetically, I missed the mark. Let's talk about some of the screw-retained disadvantages. You need enough room to get a driver through the restoration. There's limited opening, can hinder the access, and a loose screw always needs replacement. This is a maxillary arch restoration that I did, where the lingual set screws were very, very difficult to go ahead and place and lock down because of small arch and because of difficulty with this patient's opening. Straumann screw retained solution was the variobase. Whenever I do these, and I've done these historically, make sure you have the parts delivered separately. Never have them luted together by the lab. They come as the core and the crown, and then they'll come as the variobase abutment. Unfortunately, they got the heights right now. They make them a little taller than they did initially. Some of the examples that I've done clinically are right here. One of the issues that I've had with these is when they do come luted together and an adjustment has to be made, whether occlusally or interproximally, unfortunately, you can't get the parts separated if they are luted together. If you lute them yourself, you have the ability to refire the crowns if need be, especially if there's a color issue. And you can see on the lower right-hand side, even with the composite plugs over the top of the access openings, it's a very, very aesthetic crown. Cement has advantages. Some of them are, obviously, it's a less complex system. It's a faster delivery. It's much more aesthetic. It's a simplified dental procedure. And the implant position is much less critical. One of the problems with cement, it's not a lock for the single unit, parts and accessories, what they're using themselves, ZOE. So what would be an ideal implant cement? One, you'd want it retentive. You'd want it radio opaque, just in case you left anything underneath. Gum line, you'd like to see it on an x-ray. You'd like it soluble. You want the proper viscosity of this. You'd like it hypoallergenic, some form of bacterial static or bactericidal, a neutral pH so you don't upset the gingival tissues. You don't want shade or value of the restoration altered in any way, shape, or form because you'd rather not be altering the color of the crown. You want it retrievable at the appropriate time. You definitely want it non-reactive with titanium and zirconia, and it should not contain fluoride. Does anybody in the audience know what the name of that cement is? Unfortunately, it doesn't exist. If you invent this cement, your dental career is going to branch off in a whole new direction.
All right, to stop this again, John gives his presentations to dentists, dental workers, students, and instructors of dental science or dental medicine. That's his client base, or his what do they call it? What we're working with here. Our I can't think of the word. That's his the people that he is reaching.
Personally, with implant cements, KTB, Kirsch Tempon, is my implant cement of choice. If I have a non-retentive abutment, I use ZOP.
Target audience.
So what does the literature say? Back in 2009, Tom Wilson, down in Dallas, he's a periodontist, coined the term Peri-Implantitis. He had 39 patients with 42 implants that had periodontal disease. 12 patients had implants without periodontal disease. He did an endoscopic study, and it showed residual cement around the implant. 76% of these patients got better when the excess cement was removed. The biopsies found cement in the soft tissues and titanium in the peri-implant tissues. So the cement was beginning to dissolve some of the titanium. We could see here on the slide to the left, anterior tooth, cement along the long axis of the implant. On the right posterior tooth with cement along the long axis of the implant. Single crown failure, 11%, is because peri-implantitis, according to the literature. Cement-related peri-implant diseases is at least 10%. And 80% of implantitis is associated with cement. It was Wadwani in the Journal of Prosthetic Dentistry back in 2010 took Wilson's studies a little bit further. He saw that peri-implantitis post-cementation of a crown was seen in its earliest stages of 4 months, in its longest stages, 111 months, with the average being 30 months before peri-implantitis was seen clinically. It was Klauber back in the 90s that looked at titanium and titanium alloy implants and said, what corrodes these things? Acids being one, not just food, but bacteria, acids. In addition, chemicals. Fluoride corrodes titanium. Now, last time I checked, fluoride is one of the main ingredients in toothpaste. So what are we doing? And the other thing that we can't use with titanium is polycarboxylate cements. So Duralon cement is definitely out because you will corrode the titanium.
Okay, so there's 12, almost 13 minutes of a 40-minute lecture. What you saw, that I saw, in a certain few areas, and remember now, this is only 12 minutes in. There were some bloated pauses, areas where the pause was too great. A little bit of it could have been shaved out to move it along quicker. I believe when John called me, I think he said he was able to remove a minute and a half worth of pausing. When he was done removing the pregnant pauses, he had shaved a minute and a half off the total runtime of this presentation. The other thing that you, I'm sure, noticed was that periodically through the course of what we watched so far, there were a couple of times where we saw, or heard, I should say, a different level in John speaking, a noticeably different level, or a level that wasn't in keeping with where it ended. So it appeared to be a shift. That is where something was redubbed in. Now, I noticed myself that John was able to level that quite good, but when every once in a while, when he redubbed something in, he might have been a little bit higher pitched at that point, and it showed a little bit. So I pointed these things out to John, and I pointed it out to Lou this afternoon, and what they did was they went in and worked on it a little bit. And the other thing that they've decided to do, which might help a little bit, is I believe they're going to put a background, a very soft background soundtrack, a little bit of a light music that goes in the background, very low. I've done this before, and it helps quite a bit. So they're going to add that to it, and I think by the time they get done doing that, they will have solved the problems. The other thing I noticed, and this I want to show you because this is the kind of thing that, you know, this was my job. Let's put it this way. This was my job. I'm going to go to, give me a second here. I'm going to go to, let me go to 26. Let me go to 26. Let me see, 24, 25. Go to 25. Let's see where we are. 25, 26. Let me play it from here.
Deformation is achieved.
There's a video that's about to come on.
We will show you here.
And I want to show you. There you go. Here's the video. Let me stop. Let me stop. The reason I'm showing you this is something that in the middle of the process of building this, John had a bright idea. You know, he had this equipment. He is the person in the state of New Jersey that is testing this. He's one of the first people that's testing this system. It hasn't been released yet. So John has all this stuff that he can demonstrate. Lewis and John photographed this, and they inserted it into the presentation, which I think is incredible because this is something that he really hasn't even done for his presentations yet. But now it's in this video. Now, one of the reasons they sent it to me was so that I could watch all this and see if I found any errors. I'm going to play this, and I want you to watch at the end. I'm going to play this and see what you notice at the end. Here we go.
The bottom portion and the push pin. How this works is we take a Smile Lock sleeve and place it on the bottom portion of the Smile Lock arm center.
You could demonstrate the whole step.
In alignment with those 4 grooves on the bottom portion of the center. And you can see here that that alignment has to be made prior to putting the top portion of the center on the lower device. At this point, the push pins are gently pressed in all 4 lower holes to flare out the lower arms of the smile lock sleeve. As you can see, all 4 lower arms are flared. At this point, the smile lock seater can pick up the smile lock and be placed on the roto abutment.
There it is. Did you see it? I'll go back a tiny bit. There is, at the very end of that video, which is actually very nice, there's a tiny little flash. Watch for it.
As you can see, all 4 lower arms are flared. At this point, the smile lock seater can pick up the smile lock and be placed on the roto abutment.
There it is. Okay? So that little slide flash, as I was looking at it, and again, remember, they sent it to me. John was working today. They sent it to me to check, to catch things. I caught that. So that's been corrected. Now there's another one a little further on. Let me go to that one. I think it's at 32. I think it's about 32. Let's try going to 31. All right, let's see. Let's play it from 31.
So have coping blanks to be determined and introduced later on. From the smile locks, relatively simple. We have the 5mm, the 4mm, and eventually the 3mm. What's in the development pipeline is the CAD/CAM coping blank. That will be a customized coping using the smile lock technology. Here are some of the roto accessories. We have a socket driver to basically torque in the abutment. We have a closed tray impression coping. We have temporary caps for healing. We have the smile lock seater, which actually seats the smile lock sleeve onto the abutment. We have the titanium coping, which gets luted into the underside of a crown. We have a temporary titanium coping in case we want to make a provisional. We have the abutment analogs. We have a bar analog. There's the lab sleeve, which is going to be different than the clinical sleeve that we're going to be using. We have the flap setter to engage the inner and outer arms of the smile lock. We have the seal seater to make sure the silicone ring is placed accordingly. And we have the hole fixture for the lingual access holes that are currently being used for granite bridge. Again, here's your parts. We take impression copings just like we take impressions now. Provisional caps, abutment analogs, titanium copings for our crowns. You see the lab sleeve. The seal seater is for the silicone ring. There's the flap setter for the smile lock. And there's the holder for placement of the smile lock.
Where's this video?
Some of the drivers that are necessary is the Torx T6 driver. It's an angle abutment screw driver used in the 400 series abutment screw.
I must have got the wrong number on this one because
and
it's
the
not
temporary
there.
cap screw. This is necessary with the 517 and 530 series abutments, the 400 series wide body, the impression coping, the temporary cap, and the temporary titanium coping. The socket driver is for the solid abutments. It's a bicuspid abutment, integrated screwdriver, used for the 500 series abutments as well as the 300 series abutments. So
yeah, okay. So I must have the numbering wrong on this. I'm not seeing the video, so I don't want to just keep going. Oh, here we go. Here's the video. This is it. Okay, here we go. Almost there. What I want you to do is watch what happens at the end. When the video, the full screen video ends, it ends cleanly, but it ends a little too quickly. So one of the things that I asked them to do is see if they could make it end a little bit slower. Tell me if you think I'm right. Watch what happens at the end of this little clip. This full screen clip coming up.
Well, all on 4. We have angled abutments with abutment screws, abutment tapered screws, and prosthetic screws. Let's compare the Roto Medical Smile Lock, all on 4 parts. Here we have a 30-degree Roto abutment. Which gets retained by the abutment screw. The coping gets luted into the prosthesis. And the Smile Lock engages all the necessary undercuts. When necessary, through magnetic induction, the Smile Lock disengages. With the Smile Lock,
did you see how quickly that video exited to this slide? That was my complaint. It was just, I felt a little tiny bit too quick. Let me see if I can hit it. Try it one more time. Tell me if you think I'm right.
The Smile Lock
seems to exit just a little too quick.
With the Smile Lock, too quick. We don't have any prosthetic screws.
So basically, I don't want to, kill you with this. Watch this whole thing. But what I will do is take it to the end, and you can see how John ends this because it's nice. It comes out basically he's ending it
with 41 implants, 3 full arches, 29 single crowns.
He ends with him.
16 cases were done at Clear Choice in San Jose. Had 4 implant systems, 21 being Straumann, 12 being Nobel, 4 implants being BioHorizon, and 4 being Biomed 3i. This got Smile Lock FDA clearance November of 2016. So who's part of the medical overview teams? Ben Wu, for one. He's the chairman of the board. Professor and chairman at UCLA. And for those familiar with prosthetic dentistry, I am sure you're very familiar with everyone on that page. The advisory board, Ole Jensen heads that, as well as the contributing notables pictured underneath him. Seated in front of you from left to right is Gino DeSimone, Young Soo, and Ben Wu. They are the principal driving force for Roto Medical. The dozen or so people behind them is the principal lecture force for Roto Medical. I am honored and happy to be one of them. I want to thank you all for coming to the Art and Science of the Smile. I hope you enjoyed my lecture. It's part of my series, The Art and Science of the Smile. Truly a new way of doing and restoring implant prosthetics. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me with the contact information given to you. Thanks again.
Nice, huh? Anyway.
Hello, welcome. My name is Dr. John Carino.
Anyway, I just wanted to show you that because, number one, I'm pretty proud of it. It's a nice piece of work, and it was a very complicated piece of work that took several months, actually, for me and John to get through the entire process of preparing our slide presentation. I mean, the slide presentation went through a series of evaluations. My instructor evaluated the slides, gave us a critique on it, and John had a critique of his entire presentation by the Roto Medical team who hired him to do these presentations. I mean, he's a dentist, but he works now as part of a promotional team for Roto Medical, and he basically is the first person in the state of New Jersey that's working with their prosthesis. So, and I mean, this is something that he's absolutely thrilled to have been able to get. So it's quite a good thing that I was able to help him make that happen. I feel very proud about it. They critiqued his presentation, which included a critique of my part of the presentation, which of course was the visual part. John actually, gives me the direction as to what the visuals should be as far as the content is concerned. I creatively put them together to create the presentation, and then John delivers the presentation. So, they had a critique for John's delivery, and they had a critique for my deck. And between the suggestions I got from Roto Medical and my own professor, as I would be a professor to you, gave me instructions as to what I should do, I was able to develop a really nice presentation. This presentation is beautiful now. And that presentation is what we turned into this, which is our first video. As I was saying to you before, I had almost from the very beginning when I started working with John, I saw this as a potential, something that we could do. And it took me almost a year to get to the point where I was able to convince him to do it. And what really put us over the top was the fact that we had become very good friends. We're very good friends now. And I suggested to him that I would like to do this for my final project for my thesis for my master's degree. And he said, okay, well then you do that. So once that happened, then he was all on board with it. And he was, prepared to help me do whatever I had to do to get this thing done. And we just are now finishing it up, which is we're a little bit ahead of schedule, or I should say safely on schedule with it. And like I say, originally I had something completely different in mind. And his cousin came along, and it just turned out by the grace of God or whatever, that this guy was a photographer and a videographer, and he's a very good one. So now suddenly I have a videographer, somebody that I can put this in their hands and have them do this. All I now have to do now is basically give them directions, what to do, where to do it, what to fix, where to fix it, how to fix it, that kind of thing. And he's actually doing it. So it turned out great. And as I say, I would have on my own never been able to produce something as good as this. I just wouldn't have been able to do it. And it's only because I don't have the camera, the experience with the camera, or I don't have the correct program. I use a program to record lessons for my students, which is more than adequate. I use Camtasia. But for producing something of this caliber, you need something a little bit better. And he just happened along at the right time. So, again, we're talking about YouTube, and what better thing to do than to show you something that I actually did, and I'm doing it now, right in the middle of this class. It's still happening. It's still something I'm working on. So there you go. There's a great example of what can be done with this. So I hope that you'll come up with something good. All right. So let's get back to things about your work. So what we have here for the assessment 3, let's go back to assessments again. And we'll go to assessment 3. And assessment 3, where are you? There you go. Social impact and ethical responsibility. All right, so you're going to research, you're going to do that, and you're going to take the test. So what I've done basically, as I said, I've provided you with this, and what they are basically these. Let me see here. They are basically these. Okay, so 10 positive effects of advertisements. The role of advertising in society has been a subject of much debate. Advertising campaigns may be useful for consumers from the point of view of dissemination of information. Such information is necessary when buyers have to make a choice from various products and services, or from different brands or products. So right there gives you a justification for this. And one of the things you have to say to yourself is the consumer uses the information to make choices. So it's important for you to do two things. It's important for you to understand what language your competition is speaking and what you need to say to beat their information. What can you do to make your information better than theirs? One of the first things that you do is to find out what it is that they're saying, because that's a given. Once you know what somebody's saying, if you take a look at your competition, you find out what they're saying. And then you look and see whether there's a way that you can paint your story differently. And again, remember, you're going for target audience. And that's what I couldn't remember before when I was talking about John. It's John's target audience, which is basically dental professionals, dentists, dental instructors, and dental students. Those are his. So he's got quite a broad spectrum there. You've got people who are basically not dentists yet, but are heading in that direction. You've got practicing dentists, and you have people who instruct dentists. So, all right, so positive social effects of advertisements. The following are some of the positive social effects of advertisements. informed society. Now, I don't know what the exact questions are you're going to be asked, but my guess is that you shouldn't have too much difficulty finding exactly what you need on these documents that I've supplied you with. Again, why I'm doing it is I really am doing everything I can to make your job easier for you and more enjoyable. Through advertisements, the society is informed of various products, their uses, best bargains, safe handling of dangerous goods, effective use of scarce resources like petroleum and electricity, technical advances, etc. But for advertising, the society would have remained a less informed one. Health and hygiene awareness. The advertisements on health drinks, toiletry products, sanitary ware, and their installation, etc., make the people become aware of health and hygiene. Also, advertisements on protecting drinking water, effluent treatment, etc., help people live better. Rights of consumers. The right of consumers are made aware through advertisements only. The spread of consumerism and awareness of consumer rights are also due to advertisements. Unfortunately, a lot of it is due to the laws and the litigation that occurs when the rights of consumers are misused, mishandled, stripped from them. People then demand safety nets be prepared, and that's where you find this happening. Preventive course for dreaded disease. Dreaded disease like AIDS are informed to other people as to their cause, spread, and preventive measures against them. New ideas. Generally, people are traditional. This falls into the category of what you're doing. I mean, it loosely does. I mean, what you're doing is you're creating, I shouldn't call it a new idea, but what you're doing is you're bringing back something in a new way. You're coming back with a new and improved, Blue Mountain. So generally people are traditional. They should be informed of the development of latest technology. So this is what you could consider yourself doing. Maybe you're informing the people of the development of, or redevelopment, I should say, of Blue Mountain. Creative advertisements render an effective service here. And I agree with that. For example, the sex of a newborn baby is determined by father's chromosome and not the mother's. An effective advertisement would certainly help in dispelling the myth that it is the female who is responsible in sex determination of a newborn. Advertisements contribute to creativity of people. Look at certain advertisements. Your bathroom can be a glamour room is presented by the Peri sanitary ware. Perhaps next to nature, the art of advertising is more creative. Perhaps next to nature, the art of advertisement is more creative is anybody's knowledge. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. It doesn't sound quite right to me. Environmental protection. Environmental protection is the need of the hour. The brutal onslaught on nature by indiscriminate felling of trees, letting off untreated industrial effluent into the open, growing urbanization, and consequent burgeoning urban slums, etc., are brought to the knowledge of people by an awareness that's created against environmental degradation. For example, the Tamil Nadu, that's a hard one, Pollution Control Board has launched an effective campaign highlighting against the indiscriminate use and burning of plastics, which is a smart thing to do because they're very poisonous. Such messages are brought to the notice of people through advertising. We have a fireplace in our house, and we are always extremely careful to make sure that we don't let any plastic go in there because it can kill you. Social changes like accepting women as equals, empowering of women, concerns for the girl child, and curbs on female infanticide, developing public opinions against child labor, etc., are created through advertisements only. I wouldn't say through them only, but they are definitely created through advertisements. Quality consciousness. Here's a good one. One you might be able to use too. Concern for quality of a product. Quality. What's quality? When you take a look at Blue Mountain, there's something that you should think about. Quality. And we talked about the possibility of comparing it to the overwhelming competitors who basically have a lot of people there, which means that everything's strained there. And at Blue Mountain, there will be a quiet, more relaxed environment where you'd get better service because there are less people. Something to think about. Concern for quality of a product, process, or even life, work, education, investment, etc. is promoted through advertisements. Promotion of national interest. National interest is promoted through advertising as well. Complying with tax laws, complementing export achievement, promotion of tourism, protection of monuments, creating political awareness of citizens, etc. are pursued through advertisements. And I guess this is in somehow or other involved with lawyers, I guess. Let's see what we got here. What is waste in advertisement? What causes waste? What are the purpose of advertisements? Unethical advertising. What are we talking about? Social impact. Why don't we take a look at unethical advertising? I think that would be interesting. Ethical issues in advertising. Ethics are normal principles and values that govern the actions and decisions of an individual or group. The decision of marketers in advertising should be ethical as appropriate within the guidelines of industry. The following are some of the ethical issues in advertising. Advertising harmful products. Advertising harmful products is considered unethical. They may abide by law, but they are still not ethical. So there's a good point right there for you to ponder a little bit. Where something might be legally okay to do, it still can be unethical. That's where I think a lot of people play it with the gray areas. I'm not saying I'm one of them, but there's a lot of people who would be prone to looking at things a certain way, saying, well, there's nothing illegal about what I'm doing. It may be unethical, but it's not illegal. And the money's there. So, it's something I don't particularly like and I don't feel comfortable with, but I point it out because it's something I know is real. It's something I know you can actually encounter. A good example of this involves advertising for harmful products such as cigarettes. That's a good point. I mean, basically cigarettes are harmful. Given the high influence of drug cancer or lung cancer and other smoke-related illnesses among smokers, many people would consider advertising for cigarettes as an unethical business practice. Ethical issues must be considered in integrated marketing communication decisions. So what you're talking about, you're actually doing an integrated marketing communication or set of communications. They are integrated. You're basically going to be working on multiple pieces, a comprehensive campaign for a year. Advertising and promotion are areas where a lapse in ethical judgment can result in actions that are highly visible and very damaging to the company. Talked about that last night, that sometimes it's certainly not worth doing things that is going to cause you to do one of two things. Either live with the consequences and maybe go out of business, or end up spending a ton of money to try to correct the damage that you've incurred. Some people are I guess the best way to put it is they're congenitally blind to this. They look at it, it's staring them right in the face, and yet they feel compelled to go ahead and do it, only to find out that in the end they incur damage, which then they have to see how they can correct that damage. Either you ignore the damage and pretend it's not there and just keep, soldiering on, or you face it with some sort of a campaign that's built to correct the problem that you yourself have created. So this is it. We're talking about this sort of thing. So these make sense really in the context of what we're discussing overall. Colleges may impose restrictions on their students that include seeking sponsorship or in support of athletic culture events by tobacco and alcoholic beverage companies and discourage them from seeking advertisements for such companies. I suppose that's true, although I do think a lot of times that is not so true, and that you find a lot of alcoholic beverage companies are going to colleges. I may be wrong, but I think that's true. A good business should be ethical. Good ethics is good business in the long run. A business which tries to be ethical will soon have an edge over its competitors. I agree with that. I believe what's going to happen if you are ethical, if you do everything ethically, it eventually will become recognized or recognizable, and people will tend to drift to you. Thus, ethics in business signifies the social responsibility of a businessman. Very important point. So, when is advertising considered unethical? Advertising is considered unethical when it gives false information. It degrades the rival product or substitute product. It makes exaggerated or tall claims or incomplete claims, as one that we looked at last night. It is against the national and public interest. It gives misguiding information. It conceals information that vitally affects human life. It is obscene or immoral. Forms of unethical advertising. Unethical advertising can take any of the following forms. The use of sex, especially the use of women as sex objects. It is true in cases of many products like aftershave lotions, motorcycles, etc., in which women are used in advertisements, but in real life, women have nothing to do with these products. Good example would be, I think there's a burger commercial. I can't even remember whether it's a national chain or it might be a regional chain, where they used Paris Hilton in a bikini eating a burger on a car. I mean, it was just the most idiotic thing I think I can remember seeing in a very long time. But you know, there's a perfect example of something which is pretty much unethical, and it would only target a certain group of people. So I'm not sure what the whole idea was with that. It was pretty ludicrous, if you want to know the truth. Alcohol advertising. Alcohol advertising is banned on broadcast and print media in India, but we can find manufacturers of alcohol advertising for soda in an effort to keep the brand fresh in the minds of the consumer. So I guess what it's saying is they purchase a soda concern and then they use the brand somehow to, I guess, in a sneaky way to promote the product. Tobacco advertising. Tobacco advertising is considered an unethical advertising practice. All cigarette advertisements should carry a statutory warning that smoking is injurious to your health in order to highlight the risks involved. But in reality, the advertisers release very colorful and catchy advertisements of cigarettes that give an impression, especially to youth, that smoking cigarettes is indeed graceful. To be totally honest with you, I don't think I've seen too many advertisements for tobacco products at all. I can't think of any that I've seen recently. False claims. If an air conditioning company advertises that it uses imported compressors in their machines for ensuring better performance while actually using an indigenous manufactured one, then it is a case of false claim. So basically lying about the parts that they're using. That's essentially what that means. Advertisements offer mixtures and substances that claim to possess the ability to prevent people from aging are categorized as unethical. I see a lot of this kind of stuff. I know that there's at least 2 or 3 of these companies that sell these, and they're generally directed towards women, hair removal systems, which I believe do not work. There's several of them that I can think of off the top of my head. I can't think of the brand's names, but I know I've seen several of them, and I happen to know for a fact that none of them truly work. And yet people, get sucked into stuff like that rather regularly. That also falls under the category of exaggerated claims, because again, they claim one thing will happen when something else in fact does. Such claims include those that make an assurance which may not be true. For example, if a shampoo manufacturer claims that their product will remove dandruff in hair forever, even when it is used only once, in the case of an exaggerated claim. Unverified claims, the language used in advertisement will be quite ambiguous. That's something that we saw last night. As I told you, incomplete. There was something, I don't remember exactly what it was, but we looked at something that was an incomplete statement, and I immediately, it occurred to me, well, yeah, based on what? I remember thinking that. For example, if a company advertises that its product offers instant high-energy drink for children, but the question arises, what do we mean by instant high-energy drink, and what are its parameters? See, there's it. They're not giving you enough information to make that claim. Also, there is no specific verification of the energy that possesses. Such advertisements are included under unverified claims. Effects of advertising on value and lifestyles. Advertisements affect the value systems and lifestyles of people. Values refer to what one values most. All of us have a value system. In our country, simple living, spiritualism, chastity, generosity, etc. are all certain values we hold dear to our hearts. Lifestyles refer to a person's pattern of living as expressed in his or her activities, interests, appearance, and opinions. Effect on values. Advertisements chiefly aimed at commercial profit cannot but stress materialistic value systems as opposed to spiritual values. Buy before stock closes. You can afford one more TV. Go for a bigger refrigerator. Own a posh suburban flat. A luggage you would buy, a luggage you would like to be seen with. All of these catchy advertisements simply emphasize adding more and more to one's possessions. They make people neglect certain finer elements in life: spiritual pursuit, appreciation of nature, poetry, listening to music, being polite, and patriotic fervor. Advertisements with commercial objectives cannot afford to be moral bound always. Nowadays, multinational companies pump in a lot of money for an advertisement campaign, much to the dismay of local companies. This is something that's very tough to deal with. You know, you get these large chains where they have tremendous amount of money, and what they actually will do is they will go to areas where they want to place their businesses, and what they'll do is use their resources, which are tremendous compared to what you might have in a local area, and literally swamp the area with advertisements, destroying or decimating the businesses that are in the area, and literally putting them out of business so that they suddenly become the only game in town, so to speak. So there's a good example of that. Struggling for survival. Ethics, i.e. fairness in means and ends of one's actions, are seldom cared for in advertisements. There is a lot of distortion and deception. Improving advertising ethics. Measures for curbing unsocial and unethical advertising are listed below. A statute designed to discourage fraud, designed to discourage fraud in advertising. A Better Business Bureau, an organization of businessmen for the purpose of discouraging unfair commercial practices. Code to govern advertising copy by Association of National Advertisers. Several reputed publishers to print media should keep a strict vigil over their advertisements. The Information and Broadcast Ministry should also keep close watch over advertisements on radio and television. And again, there's some related posts here, but basically that should give you some ideas. And you can keep going. I mean, you can keep looking at this stuff. There's a good bit of things here. Let's go to social responsibility. This will basically wrap us up for tonight. And if you need me, you know how to reach me. For an ad campaign to be considered socially responsible, the advertisement used in a company must meet an ethical standard. So again, we're talking about social responsibility. When we go back to unethical advertising, we're talking about it here as well, okay? And I think this whole thing started from 10 positive social effects of advertisement, which we then went to here on ethical advertising, and now we're moving on to social responsibility, which is still within the range of topics. So again, what I'm pointing this out to you for is because this all falls really into what we're dealing with. For an ad campaign to be considered socially responsible, the advertising used in the campaign must meet an ethical standard. Corporate social responsibility marketing has been a focus of several major ad campaigns. But if the ad used in the campaign if the ads used in the campaign are seen as deceptive by the public, the company is unlikely to be considered socially responsible regardless of the theme of the advertisements. Social media and networking, advanced classes for more experienced creators, learn from the best. Oh, I guess that's a link. Truth in advertising. Truthfulness is the first requirement of any socially responsible advertising. However, this requirement is not as straightforward as it may first appear. Factual information can be presented in such a way as to deceive the viewer. While an image can be manipulated yet still create an accurate final impression. For example, if an advertisement says a certain product is inexpensive without revealing that it will wear out very quickly, then the information is factually accurate yet deceptive. Any customer buying a product would likely end up spending more money rather than saving because it would have to be replaced soon. Another ad might use camera tricks to create the visual impression of a juicy steak because the unmanipulated image of the steak would look dry and unappealing. This happens all the time. I mean, you take a look at any one of these ads for the fast food companies like McDonald's, Burger King, all of them, and then just go and buy the same product at the store. Pull it out of the box or pull it out of the wrapper, out of the bag, whatever. Hold it in your hand and look at it and see if you would say it looks like what it shows you on television. I doubt it. I cannot think of any one place where you can go and get something that looks as amazingly good as what you see them promote on TV. It is a universal problem. I hope you agree. If the steak being advertised are actually juicy, the ad is not deceptive, even though the image is manipulated. Messaging. Socially responsible advertising should not promote or contribute to anything damaging to society. If an advertisement makes use of radical or sexist stereotypes, shows irresponsible parenting practices, encourage irresponsible use of alcohol or sexual behavior, or attempts to emotionally manipulate a vulnerable audience such as children, then many would consider it to be socially irresponsible. Of course, most of these standards are a matter of opinion. An advertising message could be considered emotionally manipulative depending on how you look at it. So in practice, it comes down to a subjective assessment of what is appropriate and what's not. And believe me when I tell you, there are going to be people that see things completely differently. It's amazing. Actually, it's not amazing if you take a look at the political process. Take a look at what conservatives believe. Take a look at what independents believe. Take a look at what liberals believe. Completely different. And as a matter of fact, it's so completely different that you have the Republicans and the Democrats almost completely unable to work together, either in Congress or the Senate. They simply don't agree on anything, so they refuse to agree. It's amazing, actually. All right, considered emotionally manipulated, how you look at it. So in practice, it comes down to a subject. Okay, there is a risk that your ad campaign should unintentionally offend customers. There's always that risk. You have to be careful, but there's always that risk. Corporate social responsibility marketing is the practice of combining a company's charitable activities with its marketing campaigns. Instead of just writing a check to a selected charity, the company would tie the amount of the donation directly to sales and would make the fundraising campaign the focus of its advertisement. What they're saying here basically is, instead of just coming out and saying we're going to hand them a check for $10,000, what they would do is they would say a certain percentage of every sale will go to such and so fundraising organization. So when you buy the item, you know that you are directly contributing to that particular charitable organization. And if that's a charitable organization that you agree with, and if it's a wisely chosen one, it's very possible, if not probable, that the business will pick up because of it. Corporate social responsibility can benefit the company in more than one way. It can improve the public perception of the company, increase sales, and improve employee morale, all of which is absolutely true. All right, avoiding public criticism. Cynicism. While donating money to charity is a positive activity on its own, corporate social responsibility marketing can backfire in a company if it is perceived as cynical to the public. For instance, if overuse of your project is associated with higher cancer rate and you run an ad campaign for cancer awareness, there you go. That's pretty cynical. Then some people might see the campaign as deceptive and unethical. The same thing can happen if your ad company raises money for environmental causes by selling a product with high carbon emissions or excessive packaging. Before you make social responsibility the theme of your advertisement, you should make sure that there's no contradiction between your message and your business practice. And here's something I want to point out to you. You were telling me that you're going to do an ebook, and you're telling me that you were going to be doing an advertisement online. Look at what they're doing here. There's a recruiter's social recruiting survival guide, master of social arena. Get ebook. When you do your ad, this is something you might want to consider doing with your ad, creating a link to get an ebook. You're creating an ebook. So when you create your ad, find a spot on it to allow them to click to go get the ebook. Now you can't do that. You can't do that with bus wraps. Can't do it with ebooks because you obviously got the ebook. You can't really do it with a postcard. What you could do though is you could give them a link where they could go. You could set up an ebook, go to this link for ebook. That's another way you could handle that. That might work okay for your postcard if you want to do it. I'm not really sure that it would be all that good on a bus wrap. Again, when you're working with things like bus wraps or postage, signage and things like that, billboards that are by the side of the road and people see it as they go by, they don't want to spend a whole lot of time reading this. You got to be very careful with that. Keep everything as simple as possible. So just keep that in mind. This is a great idea, something that you might do, coordinating your ebook with, say, your postcard that you're going to create and your web ad. What do we got down here? I guess that's it. I don't know what this is. I don't think it has anything to do with the topic. Okay, so there we have it. Unfortunately, you're not here, so I can't really address any questions that you might have at this point. I'll just go back for a second. Social impact and ethical responsibility. So that's what we covered tonight. I think after me going through all that, you can pretty much see that it'll give you research and define 5 social impacts advertising. I think you'll have no trouble doing that. Identify and describe 5 ethical responsibilities of advertisers. I don't think you'll have any trouble whatsoever doing that. You can come up with 2 short essay questions, a minimum of 100 words. I think you could do that. And then you also can do your citations and referencing right from my articles, I believe. Yes, by Thomas Scott, Social Responsibility of Advertising, Schron, okay? And where's the date? Now, date's here somewhere. Let me look down at the bottom and see if I can locate a date for you for your citation. It is copyright 2017, Hearst Magazine. There you go with that one. And let's go to this one. Let's take a look and see what we got here. All right, so we've got positive effects of advertising. I don't see a name of a person now. Let's see. Unfortunately, I don't see a name for that one. I see a copyright 2017, all management articles, Money Matters, but I don't see a name for this particular one, so that's a little unfortunate. But all the rest of it's there. So you could probably put author. But at any rate, there you have it. So that's it. I'm going to close. I'm going to, stop recording in a minute. But what I just wanted to remind you is tomorrow's Wednesday, and I will be in Blackboard from 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock Mountain Time. On Friday morning, I will be there from 11 o'clock to 4, right? Yeah, 11 to 4 on Friday. And then on Saturday night from 7 o'clock until 12 o'clock. Okay? So there you go. Good luck, and you know how to reach me. Otherwise, give me a call, send me an email, whatever. Thank you for watching, and you know what to do if you need to reach me. Bye-bye now.